Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something I think we can all relate to: hobbies and how people spend their weekends.
Mm,
Sometimes you can get some really interesting insights from just a casual conversation between people.
right.
And that's what we're going to be doing today, using a conversation between two people, Sarah and Jack, as our starting point for this deep dive. They're talking about their weekend plans and the things they like to do in their free time.
Seems interesting.
Yeah, and we'll touch on all sorts of things like hiking, painting, playing guitar, the things that people do to kind of spice up their lives. So before we get into it, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your favorite ways to unwind on the weekend or hobbies that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, think about that for a second while we jump into Sarah and Jack's conversation.
Okay, so right away we hear Sarah talking about wanting to have a relaxing weekend. She wants to catch up on a new TV series, maybe do some reading. That sounds like a pretty classic introvert way to recharge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got Jack, who's all about getting outdoors and going for a hike with friends. That's a pretty stark contrast right there in how they want to spend their weekends.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? Is it just personal preference or is there something deeper going on here? Like, is there a psychological reason why some people are drawn to quiet activities and others crave more social and energetic experiences?
Well, you've hit on something there. It's a great question.
Uh-huh.
And actually, it kind of relates to this psychological concept called optimal stimulation level. Like, think of it as a scale.
Okay.
Introverts like Sarah often have a lower threshold for external stimulation, so they feel more comfortable in calmer environments,
Mm-hmm.
and they find rejuvenation in solitude and activities that allow for introspection.
Okay. That makes sense.
But then on the other side, you have extroverts like Jack, who tend to have a higher threshold and actually thrive on more stimulation, so they seek it out through social interaction and physical activity and new experiences.
So it's not just about being a people person or not. There's an actual biological basis for these preferences.
Exactly. And as their conversation continues, we hear Sarah mention she just finished a gripping crime thriller and is looking for something lighter, like a comedy.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a break from all the intensity.
And Jack, he recommends a popular sitcom, suggesting that its short episodes are perfect for a quick laugh.
Yeah, and it's funny because I find myself wanting different types of entertainment depending on my mood. Sometimes I'm in the mood for something that will really make me think,
Hmm.
and other times I just need a good laugh.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any research out there that explains why we're drawn to certain genres.
Well, there's a study that was published in the Journal of Media Psychology that found that watching thrillers can improve cognitive flexibility and problem-solving skills.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it's probably because following those complex plots, it requires a higher level of mental engagement. So it's like a workout for your brain.
Makes
But comedies, on the other hand, they focus on humor and lightheartedness. So they're known to trigger the release of endorphins. And we all know endorphins have mood-boosting and stress-relieving effects.
Right, so whether you're looking for mental stimulation or just a dose of feel-good hormones, choosing the right genre can actually be good for you.
Exactly.
All right, so we've covered their weekend plans, their TV preferences. Now, let's move on to something that I always find interesting: hobbies.
Okay, yeah,
It turns out Sarah has recently taken up watercolor painting,
nice.
and she describes it as a calming and therapeutic activity.
I can see that.
Yeah, and this is a really good example of how hobbies can contribute to our well-being. There's so much research out there highlighting the positive impact of creative activities like painting or drawing or music.
It's true. Engaging in these types of hobbies, they've actually been linked to reducing stress levels and improving self-esteem, and even boosting your brain power, too.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, now Jack, he's a guitar player, but he just plays in his spare time, not in band or anything. He even tries his hand at songwriting sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us can relate to that, having a creative outlet that's just for you.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about what's happening in our brains when we do these creative things. Is it just about relaxation or is there something more to it?
I think it's definitely more than just relaxing. Think about the power of music, for example.
Right.
I mean, music can evoke a whole range of emotions. Everything from joy and excitement to sadness and nostalgia.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's even evidence that music can influence our physical responses. Like it can affect things like your heart rate and your blood pressure, even your perception of pain.
So in a way, music can be used for both self-expression and emotional regulation.
Exactly. And by listening to or creating music, we can tap into different emotional states, and we can even process and regulate our feelings.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. And for people who create music, like Jack and his songwriting, it can be a powerful way to express things that might be hard to put into words.
Definitely. And speaking of shared experiences, both Sarah and Jack talk about how much they love live music concerts, festivals, that kind of thing.
Right. And this love for live music is actually tied to our human need for connection and shared experiences. Think about the atmosphere at a concert.
It's electric.
Yeah, everyone's singing and dancing, feeling that energy of the music together. It creates this sense of belonging and unity that you just don't get listening alone at home.
Makes sense. So even though Sarah and Jack have different plans for their weekend, they both want to experience things together.
Yeah, and you know what else they have in common?
What's that?
They both live to travel.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Sarah mentions she really wants to travel to new places, especially somewhere with mountains or beaches. She seems drawn to the beauty of nature and escaping into that kind of landscape.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, that yearning to see new places and experience different cultures, to kind of step outside of our daily routines and immerse ourselves in something different. Psychologists actually have a term for it, wanderlust.
Wanderlust, huh?
Yeah, it's a powerful thing. Really pushes people towards personal growth and expanding their horizons.
I can see that.
Yeah, for sure.
And for Jack, it sounds like his dream trip is a classic road trip with friends. Just embracing the open road, that freedom to explore, all the unexpected adventures that come with it.
Yeah, there's something romantic about road trips, isn't there?
Definitely.
That sense of adventure and spontaneity and the bonds you make with the people you're with, it taps into something primal, like a desire to explore and discover new things.
Mm.
Plus, you make memories that last a lifetime.
You really do. So, thinking about Sarah and Jack's conversation, it seems like their hobbies and interests say a lot about them, about their personalities and what they find fulfilling. Sarah is drawn to creative expression and finding peace in solitude, whether through painting or immersing herself in nature. Jack, on the other hand, thrives on social interaction and pushing his boundaries, whether through music, hiking, or hitting the open road. But even with these differences, they both find joy in things like live music and travel. What are your thoughts on this? Does anything stand out to you about their preferences and how they choose to spend their free time?
I think what's really interesting is how this very ordinary conversation actually touches on something much deeper, the many ways we seek fulfillment and rejuvenation when we're not working or dealing with responsibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's through active pursuits like hiking or creative outlets like painting or shared experiences like live music or travel, we all have our own unique ways of recharging and finding joy. And it's a reminder that these activities aren't just distractions. They're actually essential for our well-being and our creativity and our sense of connection to ourselves and the world around us.
It makes you think about how important it is to make time for those things that bring us joy, even when we're busy with work and life.
Yeah, carving out time for hobbies, for leisure, for connecting with our passions. It's crucial. It's not being selfish, it's self-care. I
Definitely.
mean, these are the things that nourish us, fuel our creativity, help us get through those tough times. And when we do things that we're passionate about, we tend to bring that energy and enthusiasm back into other areas of our lives. So it's not just about taking a break, it's about taking care of ourselves and finding a sense of balance.
So, thinking back to Sarah and Jack's conversation, what's one new hobby or weekend activity that you'd like to try? What kind of inspiration can you take away from this deep dive?
Maybe it's time to dust off that old guitar, pick up a paintbrush, or finally explore that hiking trail you've been thinking about. Or maybe it's about embracing those shared experiences, going to a concert, planning a weekend trip, or even just connecting with friends over a shared interest. There are so many possibilities and so many benefits waiting to be discovered. The key is to find things that really resonate with you, that ignite your passions and leave you feeling refreshed and inspired and ready for the week ahead.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Sarah and Jack's conversation. It might seem like an everyday chat, but as we've seen, there's so much we can learn from how people choose to spend their free time.
Exactly. It's a reminder that leisure isn't just about escaping from work or responsibilities. It's about actively engaging in activities that bring us joy, challenge us, and help us connect with others.
So as you head into your own weekend, we want to leave you with one final thought. Thinking back to Sarah and Jack's plans and all the things we've talked about today, what one new hobby or activity might you want to try? What small step can you take to bring a little more joy, a little more creativity, a little more connection into your life?
Maybe it's picking up that book you've been meaning to read, exploring a local park, trying a new recipe. It's not about making big changes, but about making conscious choices that make you feel more alive.
So go ahead, embrace your inner Sarah or Jack, and make this weekend a celebration of your passions and interests. Happy exploring. It really makes you think about how we view leisure time.
Right.
It's not just about vegging out, it's about making the choice to do things that bring us joy and challenge us and help us connect with ourselves and others.
Exactly. And, we always talk about work-life balance, but maybe it's also about finding that balance within our leisure time, too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like we saw with Sarah and Jack, everybody has their own needs and preferences when it comes to recharging and feeling fulfilled.
So true. So maybe it's not just about finding time for leisure, but about choosing the right kind of activities for you, the things that really give you energy.
Exactly. For some people, that might be spending time outdoors. For others, it might be curling up with a good book or having a game night with friends. It's all about being intentional with how we spend our free time and choosing things that help us feel good.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a little challenge. Think back to Sarah and Jack's conversation and all the things we've talked about today.
hmm
What's one small step you can take this weekend to bring a little more joy, a little more creativity, or a little more connection into your life?
Maybe it's finally tackling that project you've been putting off, or trying a new recipe, or reaching out to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. It doesn't have to be a big change, just a conscious choice to do something that makes you feel more alive.
So go ahead, embrace your inner Sarah or Jack, and make this weekend all about the things you love.
Mhm.
Happy exploring,